Hey folks, welcome to the channel. And the meetings between Russia and U.S. are happening right now. Let's check this out.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is meeting his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov today in Saudi Arabia. Talks are aimed at setting up negotiations for a peace plan for Ukraine without Kyiv or its European allies at the table. It's the first high-level meeting.
It's crazy. These people, the Russians, say that they would not meet with Ukraine because they don't recognize Zelensky as president of the country. That's what Russia says. They say he's a dictator, that he's not the true president of the country, and that they will not talk with that man. And the United States, basically confirming that position, say, okay, yeah, you're right. You don't have to talk with the guy. The guy who is the president of the country, which in theory you want to reach a peace agreement, they already not recognizing the president of the country. So they don't recognize the president of the country. They don't recognize Ukraine itself. They say it does not exist. Something that I've read in many comments below, I assume by Americans, that say, hey, no, Fernando, you don't understand. Ukraine does not even exist. So Ukraine does not exist. How can you meet with people that don't exist? And therefore, it is United States talking with Russia about something that's not involving Ukraine, not involving Europe in general at all. I think that the main person there should be the president of Ukraine, right? That is right now the main political figure in the country. That already just shows you the level of objective and fair negotiations that you can expect
between the two countries since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of its neighbor 3 years ago. A day earlier, European leaders held an emergency summit in Paris over the prospect of being excluded from peace talks. Let's take a look at what the meeting between the U.S. and Russia is likely to accomplish in Riyadh.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the Saudi capital Riyadh, ahead of talks with his Russian counterpart. For Ukraine, the stakes couldn't be higher, but Ukraine won't be part of the talks. Events have moved fast in the past week. U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin after years in which the U.S. froze Putin out for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. made announcements ahead of negotiations that haven't even been scheduled yet about what a Ukraine peace deal might look like. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that NATO membership for Ukraine is unrealistic, as is a return to Ukraine's old borders, in line with key demands from Moscow. He's also said that European and non-European forces should provide security guarantees, but that there would be no U.S. boots on the ground. The Trump administration has also indicated that sanctions relief for Russia is on the table.
So yeah, it's basically like a surrender deal, right? This is not really a peace deal. This is you guys surrender. So this is not going to happen, right? This is not going to happen. There's no way in which Ukraine or anyone in Europe accepts this thing of, yeah, you basically get everything you want and then more, right? Which is insane. So NATO membership, unrealistic. That's the only thing you could say. Yeah, it doesn't make. So as to be a NATO member, you should. First of all, NATO does not exist in itself anymore. There's no point in NATO anymore. Probably has not existed for many years now. It was only a smoke screen so as to keep some people, some countries tied into how much you need to expend and providing aid when it's convenient for the United States, but not when it's actually needed by the other member states. Really, NATO, and this is something that Donald Trump said himself in his first presidency, he does not believe in NATO. He thinks it should be just go away, right? It does not, it needs to exist, all right? So that already is, what would be the point of having NATO membership when NATO is not really a thing anymore? Now, no return to old borders. That means that everything gained by Russia stays in the hands of Russia. That is, rewarding the aggressor. You go and invade your neighbor, well, what you conquer for a few years, that you get to keep. This is like in international law, it is like saying, yeah, we don't have any international law at all anymore. We don't have any civil behavior between nations anymore. Just whatever you can grab by force using violence, that's okay. You don't need to give anything up. Not even having like a, okay, but you keep this and that, like some concession for the aggressor so as to, entice him to have a deal. Like, okay, better than nothing. We had nothing when we started. Now we got this. That's going to be always super delicate because, again, you're encouraging further aggression. Now, in this case, it's you keep everything, man. Everything you invaded, it is yours. And I saw Trump say something very, very sad, very unfortunate. He said, well, lots of Russians died to take over that territory, so they deserve it. He's basically talking like Vladimir Putin. This is Donald Trump basically having a more pro-Russian stance than Putin. Putin will say, no, we have to fight the far rights in Ukraine. We have to fight the globalists in Ukraine or what, or some bullshit like that. No, Trump is saying they died. They died for this territory. So it is rightfully theirs now. Then security guarantees for Russia, meaning no U.S. troops in this negotiation. Why are you even negotiating if you're not going to take part of it? What's the point of you're doing this negotiation? What kind of this is a contradiction within itself. What kind of security guarantees are you giving if you're not going to be involved in any of these security guarantees? That is, again, a contradiction within itself. And by the way, we have to be reminded that this has already happened in the Budapest Memorandum, where the United States did give guarantees to Ukraine that if Russia invaded, they would have their back. That is something that they agreed to in 1994, and the United States failed with their promise. The United States agreed, signed, promised, shake hands, and yet when it actually happened, they could not care less. Russia did the exact same thing. Russia promised to respect the sovereignty of Ukraine in this Budapest Agreement in 1994. Again, it is pretty recent. We would not invade. We will recognize the sovereignty of Ukraine and never be an aggressor if you give us the nuclear weapons that you have, right, from back in the time in the USSR times. They give up, they sign, they agree, and then it is, fuck you, Ukraine. We don't respect any of this. Not Russia, not the United States. Right? So the guarantees are based on, well, Europe, which I just came from and just told them all that they're a bunch of woke, sissy, liberal assholes, right? Which may be true in part, at the very least, with some people in some countries, not in all of them, right? What's a kind of, fucked up to even attack like that. But yeah, these assholes that I just told them that NATO is no more, that they should look after their own. Well, these are the people that are going to look after the agreement that I'm promising not getting involved with. So what kind of deal is this? Russia sanctions relief, and then of course, we will make sure you're back in business. You don't have any sanctions. It's all gonna be good. This is the United States basically becoming the best ally that Russia could ever have. This is United States aligning 100% completely with Russia against Europe and of course Ukraine. Guys, I don't know. Maybe this is a good thing for the United States. Maybe it's not. I don't know that being on that side is good in general. Like, Russia is very much a dictatorship. The guy that says he does not want to meet with the president of Ukraine because he's a dictator, he's an actual dictator. Vladimir Putin is an unquestionable, there's no question that the guy is a dictator. He's been in power forever. He's not planning on leaving. He's in perpetuity president of Russia. That's a dictator. So you negotiate with a dictator at the same time that you drop your pants and shit all over your allies and the country that you're supposedly negotiating for, but not even bringing them to a table. This is insanity in terms of any kind of serious peace agreement between two parts, when one of them is not even invited because one of the parties you're dealing with does not even recognize them. And you go like, okay, that's reasonable. Let's still go forward.
NATO allies of the U.S. have scrambled to catch up, asserting that they too should take part in any peace talks. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has said British troops could be part of a peace.
So here you have Volodymyr Zelensky, which a lot of people hate. Yeah, it's kind of, again, the social engineering is. Why do you hate Zelensky? Oh, he's super corrupt. Okay. He used to be a comedian. He once dressed up like in drag in one of his comedy sketches. Which is, yeah, that's what he did. He was a fucking comedian, right? But anyway, a lot of people have been convinced that this guy is a devil, just like so many Russian leaders think. And then you have Keir Starmer, which is, yeah, he's a peach, isn't he? So you have people that are either rightfully questionable, like in the case of, at least in my opinion, the Prime Minister of UK, which is again, just my opinion, I think this guy is a massive traitor. Now, I think that the comedian guy had a lot of balls when he was being kicked out of his own country and U.S. was kindly offering a chopper to leave. Now it all makes sense, doesn't it? Of course it does. We will save you, Zelensky. Come with us. We will guarantee your safety if you leave the country. Crazy. It was kind of obvious when it was happening, but now, again, it is glad to be proven right.
Peacekeeping force.
It is nice.
And Sweden.
It is nice to be proven right when you are, oh, okay, why are they not like, yeah, we will send some people to guarantee your security in the capital or whatnot. No. We guarantee you that we will take you out of your country and let it be taken over by Russia.
Says it would not rule out also sending troops to guarantee a ceasefire.
There you go.
Leaders have also discussed a peace plan provision that would see Ukraine gain instant NATO membership if Russia breaks a ceasefire.
This is what the European leaders are talking about without the U.S. even being involved here. So the first thing the United States will say is, I'm not going to allow Ukraine into NATO if they're being attacked, right? Which is actually correct. But again, the point is, NATO does not exist anymore. So this is really going to be about either European nations having the balls to form its own army, actually guarantee that they will defend Ukraine if Russia continues with its aggression or not. Now, what the United States will say with this is, and this is going to be Trump. This is going to be Trump saying, I tried to make a peace agreement that was super reasonable, but those fags and liberals in Europe and that dictator in Ukraine did not want it. But I had a peace agreement. It is just them that didn't want to accept it.
In all this, Ukraine and its president Volodymyr Zelensky have largely been sidelined. But Zelensky has said Ukraine would not abide by agreements made without its participation. Trump did send his Treasury Secretary to Ukraine to discuss U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, suggesting that could be a way to pay back the U.S. for military support.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it really a good idea? You're going to pay back the military support? Well, you're going to give up your natural resources to the country that is negotiating with your enemy. Oh, but you have to pay back. Well, there's lots of guys. We have to be realistic about what the world is right now. There is no dignity, honor, signature. I mean, again, signatures clearly don't matter. So if I agree to something, unless I'm forced to go along with it, we are in that post era now. In this moment, he would be an idiot to agree to any kind of paying back anything to the United States that is now literally ally of his enemy. The United States is right now allied with Russia, and whatever they sent, well, that's unfortunately that's part of it. And let's be completely honest, everything the United States sent was either old and about to be thrown literally into the ocean, which is something the United States does all the time in case you don't know, or needed to be replaced stock. So this was perfect for the United States to send these weapons to Ukraine to replace its military stock, to get more contracts signed and get money rolling for the military-industrial complex while actually using those weapons and saying, you now owe me $6 million for that rocket that you shot that I sent you in my immense charity. Wasn't it this all money that was being given away? Wasn't it this all money that was being stolen by the greedy Ukrainians? Well, now it's what? Now it's what was being bought, and they have to pay it back. So this wasn't about charity or generosity or peace or caring about the Ukrainian people or wanting to fight the good fight with your weapons. No, it was all about, I'm selling you my super expensive weapons at an impossible price that makes no sense, and I was not even planning on using them anyway, just throwing them into the ocean. Now you owe me your country's natural resources. I would sit down with the guy, and then fuck you. I'm not giving you a damn thing in these terms. Forget about it. No way. But anyway, I guess the politeness needs to continue. And Zelensky, how is it that you plan to repay for all of these weapons that we said we were just giving you away and you were stealing from us? But no, now we're being honest finally about what this was all along about, which is you owe us a shit ton of money, right? On our super overpriced weapons that even Donald Trump himself is saying is overpriced. And I guarantee you that Elon Musk will say everything is overpriced there as well. And he will find that if he actually goes looking. So, no, I'm not paying whatever it is you want from me.
A way to pay back the U.S. for military support. His Treasury Secretary to Ukraine to discuss U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, suggesting that could be a way to pay back the U.S. for military support.
Oh, pay back. Now, hey, when is Israel paying back anything? So Israel is not paying back anything ever? That's interesting. Anyway.
Meanwhile, the war rages on, the front line barely moving as Ukraine tries to hold on to its territory, knowing that if Russia takes it, Ukraine may not get it back.
Yeah, probably. But one of the main takeaways here is that most of these countries,
asserting that they too should take part in any peace, also discussed a peace plan provision that would see Ukraine gain instant NATO membership if Russia breaks a ceasefire. In all this, Ukraine and its President Volodymyr Zelensky have largely been sidelined, but Zelensky has said Ukraine would not abide by it, suggesting that could be a way to pay back. U.S. Secretary of...
So you have already UK, France, and a bunch of other countries saying that they would be willing to send troops to defend the border with Ukraine and Russia if some kind of peace agreement is in the table, that they are actually part of the agreement. Of course, you could not possibly agree to something that you haven't even been invited. Only the enemy has been invited to negotiate, and neither you nor the country that's being attacked has been even in the conversation. That is insanity. That is just, it is pandering to the U.S. audience. This idea, oh, wow, look, fuck them, the Ukrainian criminals and those assholes in Europe and so on. But this is completely pointless. This is honestly, this is Marco Rubio, this is a waste of time. This is, well, maybe not a waste of time. I mean, it is something that will never achieve anything in terms of actual peace. This is not a peace agreement, but it's achieving the political victory of, see, we try to do this. It is on them that they didn't want to have peace. And especially selling this, just like in the case of the speech from J.D. Vance in Europe, selling it to the American audience, right? Selling it to the American people of, this is what we're all about. But we just couldn't deal with these corrupt Ukrainians and these left-wing Europeans that don't want to have real peace. They're not reasonable. That's basically what it comes down, guys. I think this is not going to end up well in terms of, again, this U.S. Russia deal without even involving the country that's being attacked makes no sense, and not involving the countries that they say will be the ones guaranteeing the peace there. So you're not involving the countries you want to actually send soldiers. You're not going to send soldiers, but you're using the people you don't even invite to the table to guarantee. Anyway, it is a tad embarrassing and kind of depressing to see that this is something that actually so many people will buy. Like, wow, yeah, that is super reasonable. Why didn't you want to have peace? But in the case of what could actually really end up happening is, besides this, some negotiation between Russia and Europe once they get their act together and put together a proper European response to the war in Ukraine. That could probably work. Russia probably does not want to fight all of Europe. That's going to be a lot harder than they think, especially given the success they've had in Ukraine, which, by the way, it was Tulsi Gabbard that said the entire country of Ukraine would fall in 2 weeks. Tulsi Gabbard, and you can go look my old videos when she said it, Tulsi Gabbard said that all of Ukraine would fall to Russia in 2 weeks. Of course, she said that 3 years ago. So that's how accurate some of these predictions are. Folks, see you next time. Take care.